Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey.
My name is Steve Adubato, and I'm the proud founder and president of the Stand and Deliver program. It is my honor to be a part of such a special night, such an extraordinary program with 550 of the most talented, committed, overachieving young men and women from urban communities from across this state. Some people question what kids from Newark or Patterson or other urban areas can accomplish. But those who know the Stand and Deliver program, those who put their money behind the Stand and Deliver program, those who put money into that ad journal that added up to about 80 grand, you know the difference, and that's why you care for these young men and women.
You see, between tweets, snaps, and the endless wave of Photoshop pictures on our timelines, we are often found overwhelmed, and it's simply mind-blowing how we manage to blend online life and the real world. Interactions have never been easier than in this day and age, because where else in time can you like and comment on photos at the click of a button? Yes, social media is one of the new 7 wonders of the world because it links us all to one network. But it shouldn't be all that holds us together. We can all agree that life as we know it would be much harder without the ability to retweet. But is online life the only life we should be living? Social media is actually preventing us from being social because we feel like, why meet up when we can group chat? And why take the time to laugh when we can LOL? We rank ourselves based on how many Facebook friends we have and how many followers we lead, when we should be taking the time to make actual friends and being actual leaders. It's great to see updated statuses of people doing wonderful things, but why not put down the phone for a change and update the statuses of our lives by taking time to build meaningful relationships with family, friends, and loved ones? We need to take the media out of social media, because nowadays the only current events we know is what video just went viral and who's keeping up with the Kardashians. No one wants to be knees deep in notifications. But if we just took time out of our day, we can do something and keep up with our feeds. Because life is too short to be slaves to our cell phones. So why not start living life instead of posting about it? Now, let's take a selfie.
If you're reading this, it's too late. The girl you once knew is not the same. Yeah, it's true, you were always physically there, but was your mind ever with me when I was in need of your guidance? Did the words I spoke from my heart ever touch yours? You always came to me when you needed help, but where were you when I cried out in despair, when I was alone with my thoughts? But what brought me sadness, that angered me, was not my disappointment in you failing me, but it was how I trusted you. How you constantly lied and played with my emotions. But being as gullible as I was, I followed through and believed you. But the worst thing I did, the biggest mistake I made, was turning into exactly what I promised myself I would never turn into, a dependent person. Because why would I want to spend the rest of my life relying on other people to be happy, to be successful? People aren't always going to be there for you. But during those times, you have to be there for yourself. You have to work hard to meet your ambitions, because there is no better feeling than being proud of yourself for something you accomplished. Being able to look at something you did and saying, I did that. It may take a lot of hard work and a few sleepless nights, but in the end, keep moving forward because you are your own hope and your own opportunity. Thank you.
Powerful words, honest words, truthful words, and brave words. Words for a nation who's trying to fight the horrors of blatant racism, unfairness, and injustice. But the truth is to be told, there is no need to apologize for exercising your God-given rights. The sickness, the madness, which America has been suffering for over 5 centuries. My brave people are tired of fighting the ills and the stigmas of our societies. The prisons are populated with innocents. The police randomly humiliates my brothers, my sisters, and remember Trayvon Martin. We have every reason to be mad and irate. A fair system needs to be in place now. Powerful words, honest words, truthful words, and brave words to save America.
So, let me tell you a story. Right now, there's a kid finishing parents' evening in a heated discussion with his mother, saying, why do I have to study subjects I will never, ever use, ever, in my lifetime? Then she will look at him blank-eyed, stifle a sigh, think for a second, then lie. She will say something along the lines of, you know, to get a good job, you need a good degree, and these subjects will help you get a good degree. We never had this opportunity when I was younger. Then he will reply, but you were young a long time ago, weren't you, Mom? And she won't respond, although what he implies makes perfect sense, that society's needs would have changed since she was 16. But she will ignore him, grip his hand more sternly, and drag him to the car. What she doesn't know is that she didn't ignore him just to shut him up. She didn't lie because they are just returning from parents' evening, and a heated discussion in the hallway with their own son would look bad on her resume. She won't lie because she had just spent the last 1 hour convincing a stern-faced teacher that she would ensure that her child studies more at home. No. She will lie simply because she does not know better herself. Although throughout all her adult life, she has never used or applied Pythagorean theorem, pathetic fallacy, and still does not know the value of x. She will rely on society to tell her that her child, who has one of the sharpest minds in the whole school, is hyperactive, unfocused, easily distracted, and wayward. Students, how many equations, subjects, and dates did you memorize just before an exam never to use again? How many A grades did you get which were never asked for when applying for a job? How many times have you remembered something 5 minutes after? Just 5 minutes after the teacher said, stop writing. Only to receive your results a month later to realize you were only 1 point short of the top grade. Does that mean remembering 5 minutes earlier would have made you more qualified for a certain job? Well, on an application form, it kind of would have. See, we all have different abilities, thoughts, experiences, and genes. So why is a class full of individuals tested by the same means? I mean, so Sherelle thinks she's dumb because she couldn't do a couple of sums, and if this issue isn't addressed properly, it then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That every school has the audacity to have a policy on equality. The irony.
Jessica, you are in the 8th grade?
Yes.
That's true. I want to put you on the spot. Mm-hmm. When you were standing up here, what were you feeling?
I felt like all the things that I'm learning now possibly won't have any relevance. I really felt that. I really did. I really did. But the things that I learned in Stand and Deliver will actually have some relevance when I
So we're
grow
good.
older.
We're
Yes,
okay.
Yes,
We're
you guys
okay.
are okay. Yes.
I just want to make sure we're
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
At the risk of seeking a compliment in public, which is, something my family is really good at. What was the most significant lesson you learned about leadership, communication, pick your poison? What was the most significant lesson you took away, you've taken away, and will take away from the Stand and Deliver program?
Speaking in front of people was a fear of mine. And I've been in the Stand and Deliver program for 2 years now, and it's changed me so much. It's improved me so much. So I've learned that you really have to take skills that will help you in later times, not like things that we're learning in class right now, like
You got that message.
yeah, like quadratic equations and but yeah.
You think you're going to get? You think you're going to want to do something meaningful even after school and make a difference in the world through your communication skills? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people are betting on Jessica?
To see more Caucus New Jersey with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're here with Melissa Walker, our Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership winner in 2016 on Stand and Deliver program. What did it mean to you tonight?
It meant a great deal. I think communication and leadership are really the key to the 21st century. To walk and to be honored with the name of Dr. Martin Luther King for this award, who his entire life and legacy gives so many lessons to us as people and as leaders. And as someone who really kind of just started with a program because I had a passion and a love and I saw a need, and then to just put one foot in front of the other. I think of Dr. Martin Luther King that way. He just put one foot in front of the other, and he saw the need and he put his life and soul into it.
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one dream, under a sky, full of stars, unequally financed when compared to the poor, with liberty and a fair chance to all if you work really, really hard. I pledge allegiance to America's glory, the flag, it's roaring, scaring away all the foreign kids as the homeless steal the stripes that Republicans stitch, hoping to make America great again. I pledge allegiance to the land of the free, built off of slavery, to the dream that we naturally entertain because we live in this country. I pledge allegiance to the currency because it's all about the money. I understand that without documents saying I'm born here, you won't trust me. But trust me, I am aware that in something so pretty, it's something unbashfully ugly. I am not fooled by red that looks blue, folded in folds of fabric, or the fiddling on TV is a distraction. Fixing to filter tragic, finding ways to make impossible things happen is not something I believe in. It's not the dream that I get lost in. It's not the fantasy I wake up to. Not the reason why I go to school or wake up. But I do know a few who, after hearing about the American dream, just might wake up with a scheme. Know a few who believe that with an education, he can take a nation. You know those go to college and get rich schemes, those get a degree and buy nice things dreams. Tell him an American dream. Tell him an American scheme. Tell him that life is a dare. Make sure that he prepares for his next heartbeat. Tell him an American dream. He'll pledge allegiance, I swear he will. Give him 15 minutes, he'll lose himself and become deranged. You see, he runs from me when I identify as reality. And here in my hands, I offer him change, a life outside of the mainstream. You see, he doesn't see that while he tries so hard to go back to sleep, he's keeping himself at a standstill. Standing still. He allows change to be a flame fueling fright. With a fit like that, you think he's gonna make it through the night? Don't let change be a flame fueling fright. Don't let change be a flame fueling fright. Don't let change be a flame fueling fright. And maybe, just maybe, you'll make it through the night.
Change. Change? The only change I ever knew was a change coming out of my dad's pocket. Change. The only change that rings a bell is the change I would look for on the pavement and the sidewalk so I can get a barrel of colored sugar water. Change. The greatest change I ever got was a $20 bill I found in my doorstep that one morning. A gift from the world for all the years I looked under my pillow and only finding a tooth. Not because she didn't exist, but because the change didn't. That bum in your street doesn't know any change. He only knows coins of pity. I remember one morning waking up and seeing this show called Despierta America and wondering if this show could actually despertar America. Wake up, government. Your people are drowning in poverty. And with all due respect, government, to your sovereignty, I want to tell you something from the heart, very solemnly. The people at the bottom need your help, and I am proud of me. Because me coming from a high-water jeans wearing, baggy t-shirt using, hand-me-down taking experience, and coming to you proudly, saying if you don't make a change, I'll build an army of people who actually want to make a change. But honestly, do you think that this world is okay? Tell that to the poor guy slowly losing faith and all of his weight through all of the seasons. Through all of the seasons, losing all of his weight. And you think that's bad. This is our world. But what are you going to do about it? Try to get us out of this Great Depression, or wait till we the people make it out of this recession? People, now I'm talking to you. I'm not giving up, and neither should you. For I pledge my allegiance to the people of America, and I will not stop till something happens. And Mr. President, spare change?
The truth of the matter is, of all the titles that Tony could hold, the truth is that he is a shape-shifter. He is a trailblazer. He is a change maker. He is the influencer. He is the transformer.
About 150 students come to NJIT with their sleeping bags, their suitcases, and their fears, because they're going to experience calculus, easy stuff, physics, chemistry, strength of material, statics and dynamics, and on and on and on. And the majority, if not all of these students, are economically poor. And they're going to come to a school where the top 15% of young men and women from New Jersey and beyond attend. Those are going to be the students in the classrooms next to them in September. And there is one man for the past 23 years has been transforming these young people. Tony Howell is the most real, genuine, caring person I have met who's been doing this year after year. My dear friend, Tony Howell.
It took another guy, a cat who had black hair like I had once upon a time, who believed in me, who I sat across the table from when I was in the Department of Higher Education. He's with the Department of Education with the state of New Jersey. And we looked at each other and said, you know, we got the same kind of feeling, and that is nothing cannot be done for young people. And when he left and come up to NJIT, he called me. He got a hold of me, and we sat across and had some coffee, and he said, come on, let's do this. I said, sure. What am I doing? He said, you're going to run the pre-college programs. And I wrote more from the pre-college programs into the in-college programs called EOF, EOP. And we're going to stick together until God and us tells both of us, stop. It took staff and students and parents driving themselves to change their lifestyle to make what happened in the EOF program, EOP program at NJIT really, really come to fruition.
Ladies, we deserve a standing ovation. Whether you're tall, short, skinny, or carrying a little weight, we must all stand in formation. It brightens my day to see smart, independent women doing what they have to do. Sisters complimenting each other without feeling threatened, and girls uplifting themselves, feeling confident and true. Ladies, as fly as we are, we ought to let it show. Because, right? Because there will always be that one person trying to steal your glow. Don't know why, but they will say, aren't you a little too big to be wearing that? Ooh, girl, that color's not for you. I know a great product that can fix all that. I'm telling you, one session with my plastic surgeon and you'll look perfect. The comments, the insults, the subtle suggestions, you'll hear them forever. But only you can decide how to make yourself better. So throw away your insecurities, starting from your beautiful, bare face. The tiger marks that cover your thighs. That pouch and the rolls we hide so well. That pimple on your left cheek. Actually, pop that. But keep moving forward. Your laugh, your smile, your eye-catching, show-stopping neck, turning one-of-a-kind style. The scars, the wounds, all the way down to your size 10 shoes. These things that we would change if only we could make us a part of this wonderful thing we call womanhood.
I refuse to be another black statistic. A black man who can wine and dine in the center of the world and still be considered a Christian. I plan on being great. I care not to be less. See, I refuse to wear a barcode across my chest. I refuse to let my children witness divorce or make mature decisions in court. I refuse to grow up carrying that generational curse. I refuse to feel the need to curse in my verse. I hate automatically being looked at when someone asks, can anyone rap? I want to be a black man who can flip it from urban to corporate measures. A black man who doesn't gain knowledge from the world for his own pleasures. A black man who reps Christ to the fullest with no regrets. My only regret is the stigma that many black statistics in the past have set, like going to jail, bragging about bail, cussing at church, married, and you still flirt, no father present at birth, animosity within the ministers of our church. I refuse to let my people be viewed as temporary. I plan on planting a seed, not for the moment, but for one that's legendary. And as for these statistics, my father broke the mold, and I feel it's my job as the next generation to continue in it, because I refuse to be another black statistic.
Elijah, let me ask you, I put an 8th grader on the spot before, so it's easy to put you on the spot. What do you think you want to do in terms of making a difference beyond this powerful presentation and not simply being a statistic? Talk to folks about what you think you want to do to make a difference.
This coming September, I will be enrolling, I'll be going to school at Rutgers University in New Brunswick. I'm majoring in social work, and I plan on staying there to get my 5-year social work master's degree. Then I plan on, okay, clap. I plan on becoming a counselor, specializing with children and family, especially in the inner city community. And I also plan to be a pastor, so staying in the city of Newark.
One more question.
Go ahead.
Just one more question. One more self-serving question. Biggest lesson you've taken from the Stand and Deliver program?
The biggest lesson that I learned from Stand and Deliver is to slow down.
How would you deal with that baby right now?
I'm a very energetic person, but when I speak, Stand and Deliver has taught me to slow down because there's importance in every single word that I say. So I have to slow down so everyone can hear it and understand it.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.